Hello YouTube, this is Froogle, and I'm flying sideways. Apparently the wind is about 30 to 40 knots here at Sanford. I'm in the A2A Comanche. I'm trying to head east, which isn't working very well right now. Let me just see if I can adjust power and prop here. Get a bit more traction. Climbing up on 600 feet here. The weather is absolutely atrocious. You can tell, you can see. Severe thunderstorms, heavy winds, rain. But as you can see in the distance, it's actually quite clear. You know, to the north there is not too bad. We're going to head to the east. Because to the east, apparently, there's a bit of wind shear, but once you get through that, the rain eases up. It's just a little bit of light rain at that point. Apparently. Oh my goodness. More sideways. Now the reason the weather is so bad is a new tool, which I covered in a news show recently, called REX4 Weather Architect. And all the weather you're seeing in prepared right here, or it could be FSX, doesn't matter, was set using REX4 Weather Architect. I'm going to show you how I did it in a minute. I just want to fly out towards the coast here, and we should see some fairly dramatic shifts in the weather as we make our way out that way because of the granularity of REX4 Weather Architect. Oh, bit of wind shear. I've got some turbulence in here. It's very, very hard to climb today. Oh my goodness. Let me plug some headphones in because it's a little noisy in here as well. There we are. Thankfully, the little Piper Comanche doing just fine. Somewhat. Let's pop outside and take a look. There we are. Struggling along. Oh my god. Bounce, bounce. I only just took off, which is why my gear was still down, so I'll bring that up right now, get a bit more speed. You can see very, very strange weather, which actually is not that strange. Here in Florida, the weather does tend to get very localized, in that you can easily stand out in your backyard or back garden, and you can see a line of heavy rain and wind in the nearby street, but over you it'll be fine. That's quite common in Florida, and even something as powerful as Active Sky Next cannot reproduce that. And the reason it can't reproduce that is most weather applications work off weather reporting stations. So if you're using something like Active Sky Next or FS Global Weather, then they're typically picking up the weather from local reporting stations. So you'll get the weather from Sanford, you'll get the weather from Daytona, you'll get the weather from Orlando, Miami, and so on. But you wouldn't get any localized issues, which in many parts of the world, Florida in particular, is completely unrealistic. Not completely, but largely unrealistic. So getting a tool that lets you hand paint the weather is actually pretty cool. You can set up some really interesting things. For example, flying in Florida, a lot of people learn to fly in Florida because typically the weather is very good, but during the summer, we get heavy rain and storms every day, usually around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon because of the heat. It soaks up all the moisture and then it gets dumped down onto Florida 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, it's incredibly localized and incredibly brief. So using a tool like REX Weather Architect, you could very easily set up some horrendous severe weather just for like 5 miles outside the airport and then have the airport completely fine. And that's not an unusual occurrence here in Florida, landing in somewhere like Sanford or Orlando or Miami or Jacksonville or Tampa or wherever you want to fly. You can see already here, look, the wind has eased up. We get a bit of turbulence. There's definitely some thunder out there, but as we head out towards the coast, it's not too bad. We're getting a good turn of speed. We're not being buffeted around too much. Everything is looking really quite lovely. And you can see actually just beyond the coastline there, the weather is absolutely fine. It's perfect. Because this weather front ends at the coastline. That's how I've set it up. Little Comanche doing just fine. Let's take a look at a spot view because it is such a nice aircraft. Not a spot view, I'm sorry. I wanted a flyby. Let's try that. There we go. Beautiful stuff. Now you may also have noticed that as I took off there, we didn't have the classic FSX and prepared warp effect. Oh, I am going very much sideways. We've hit the weather. We've hit the wind that I set up. There was a wind bank here. We didn't have the classic FSX warping rain, and the reason for that is Precipit FX from FSFX Packages, which I've got installed and been using for quite some time. Not going to get the best demonstration of what FSFX Packages does flying in this little Comanche, other than we have somewhat realistic rain now. You know what? My legs are getting soaked. I'm going to close this window. There we are. But we've definitely hit the wind that I set up. You can see, oh, there we go. Rain stopped. There's the wind. Very, very local. And although that looked somewhat unrealistic, it really isn't. Anybody that lives in Florida will tell you that's actually quite normal. You can be driving down the interstate here. I-4 is the big interstate that goes through Orlando. You could be driving down there and it will just suddenly stop raining. Or it will just suddenly start raining. It is the strangest thing. And the rain that you get is tropical in nature. So it's a huge torrential downpour. Great fun. Loving the fact that I can now set up conditions just like that. Anyway, I'm going to quit out of prepared, and I'm going to show you how I did all of that. So let's exit out here. Now, Rex have a suite of weather tools. Actually, there's the weather radar right there. Rex have a suite of weather tools, and obviously REX4 Texture Direct was one of them. It's a big retexturing tool which I've used in many of my videos for quite some time. I am a huge fan. But what I'm going to show you is REX4 Weather Architect. So let's fire this up. Here it comes. We'll turn off the weather radar. We don't need that. Yes, we know. We know. Goodbye. And here it is. It looks very much like REX4 Texture Direct. You have texture install configuration up here. So which kind of textures do you want to install? You know, all the usual stuff. We have your main sim preferences here. Notice here my profile. So there's my name, my email address, my Froogle sim email address, of course. And you can share your weather profiles with the world. So you can create a weather profile and everybody can see it. Now, I got some stuff actually I didn't notice turned down here, so I could enable gusts, I can enable haze, I can turn on 3/8 global cirrus, 5/8 global cumulus, wonderful stuff. And then what I can do is go and mess with a flight plan. So I can actually create a flight plan in here, and what I just did there was I did a local thing, and I just said from KSFB, and then choose over here Sanford, choose where you're taking off from, so parking 2, going to KSFB. Oh, ding, that sound means somebody has just shared a profile. Let's click on OK. And typically when you hear that sound, you'll see an alert appear up here. I'm not sure why it didn't appear just then. But then this is the interface that you're working with. And it's actually very, very nice. There is KSFB right there. And I can right click and I can move the map around, which is great. And then what I can do is I can set up those highly localized weather patterns that I just showed you. And it's very easy to do. So I can set a heavy storm front. Let's say there is a heavy storm front here in Orlando and Sanford moving to the east. So we can just paint down here a really nasty heavy storm front. And then I can define what heavy storm front actually means by clicking on cell settings. So the surface visibility, well, no, not 20. Let's put it down to 5 miles. It's a really nasty heavy storm front with an east-southeasterly wind at 20 knots. Turbulence is going to be heavy. Cloud shear is moderate. Overcast, 8/8 overcast. Pretty dense stuff. I can redraw all this stuff here. There we go. So that's the weather I just set up. Then obviously on the back end of that, there might be some moderate storm sort of nestled in and out. You've all seen weather radar images on the local news. Put that in there. And there's some light storm obviously on the leading edge here. There, little pockets of normality there, and obviously nestled in and behind on the trailing edge. So we're getting pretty good. And then I can put some light rain. So as this storm approaches, there's some light rain coming in. A little bit patchy. And I, again, can modify that and say that light rain is, well, 30 miles is great. A little bit of east-southeasterly wind. Only, can I make it more granular than that? I can. 10 knots. A little bit of turbulence. And we'll put some of that on the front end of the storm. And then on the back end of the storm, again, I can put some moderate rain. As that storm passes through there, we get some moderate rain banks. 1 or 2 heavy rain patches kind of nestled in here. And then some light rain down here. It's very, very cool. So there you have it, an incredibly localized and highly detailed weather system. And what I was wondering before I got REX4 Weather Architect, by the way, this was sent to me for free, did not pay for this. Actually, though, didn't see the value in it at all when it was sent to me. I like what Rex do. I'm a huge fan of what they do, but I'm an Active Sky Next user. Why on earth would I use this? The reason I would use this is for what I just showed you. The weather reporting stations around the world don't provide this level of granularity, so you can set up some incredibly detailed stuff. So having done all of that here, where do I do it? I can go view briefing. Now this will lock in the weather system I've done. You see here it says it locks it in, finalizes it. You can't change it at this point. So I'll lock that in. And then I get my departure. So there's the METAR report. Expect inbound flight delays of 10 to 15 minutes due to moderate wind shear. Okay. My arrival, again, same sort of weather. I can bring up the weather here, and it's going to bring up some METAR reports for the stations that I set. And I can click on one of these.
Weather briefing for Orlando Sanford International. At 16 Zulu. Wind 080 degrees at 10 knots. Visibility, unlimited. Clouds, overcast skies at 5,000. Weather, light rain or drizzle. Airport alert. Expect inbound flight delays of 10 to 15 minutes due to moderate wind shear. Temperature, 26. Viewpoint, 21. Altimeter, 10-15 millibars.
So there you go. And I can zoom the map in or out. Let's go in and see a lot more detail behind what I just painted. And I can actually click on a lightning overlay. So there's quite a lot of lightning going on. Again, not unusual for Florida. And away we go. It's really quite clever. Bring up the alerts here and I can see convective sigmets, turbulent sigmets, icing sigmets, and so on and so on. That's really all there is to it, but it's pretty cool. Having done that, see there's a little test I did earlier on. I can share that and publish that out for the world to see, or I can publish the one that I just flew. This is one I was messing around with. This is the one I just flew, not the one I just drew, and I can publish those, delete those, and so on. When you actually go to fly, if you have REX4 Texture Direct installed, then it will actually use REX4 Texture Direct to install the appropriate textures based on where you're flying and the conditions you're flying in. You can do a lot more as well. I can, let's load up the fully loaded flight I was just doing, so I can browse for flight plans, EGJJ to EGKK. We'll open that one, click on OK, right click, and there's my flight plan. So now, rather than setting global weather and global weather conditions, I can actually set up localized weather along the route. So I could say that taking off from Jersey, it was lovely, it was really, really nice, but as we approached the coast of England and the Isle of Wight here, the rain started coming in, so some light rain, and then some moderate rain kind of mixed in the middle of that, and then some very heavy rain around it, and then as we approached into Gatwick, things turned nasty. We had a massive fog bank all around Gatwick and a massive wind shear leading in and around it, so if I have to go around I'm screwed. And again I can change the cell settings and say low visibility, southwesterly wind at 85 knots and have the most horrendous approach to Gatwick you have ever seen ever. Anyway, that is it for REX4 Weather Architect. There's not much more to show. It is actually a very powerful tool. I'm going to use it. I am going to start using it for some fully loaded flights and things like that, because normally for fully loaded what I do is I set up historical weather and I use Active Sky Next for historical weather, and that is very, very good and convincing, but it would be so nice to have local weather conditions really screwing up things along the flight and having to divert maybe to avoid these massive heavy storm systems that suddenly cropped up en route, so we'd have to divert off to the right or the left to avoid that. Very cool stuff. REX4 Weather Architect, I'm going to put the link in the show notes below if you're interested in checking it out. As always, my name is Froogle. Thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you.